My wife wants to have another baby, despite both agreeing never to get pregnant again after her first pregnancy being a nightmare. So 2 years ago, my wife gave birth to our baby boy. He is wonderful and we both love him very much. My wife had an absolutely horrible pregnancy experience. She was in good health before the pregnancy, as was I. Neither of us were athletes or anything, but we casually exercised and were conscious of what we ate, but weren't on strict diets or anything. Despite being in good health, her pregnancy was awful. She threw up almost every day for the first 2 trimesters, her legs and feet became shockingly swollen, she developed diabetes and high blood pressure, and her liver and kidneys became at risk of being damaged, on and off anemia issues, and a whole book of other random things that I can't remember all of. All of this was despite working so hard with her doctors to mitigate the issues. She was put on many medications, given diet plans, low-stress stretching exercises. She had to stop working in the 3rd month because of how sick she became. I helped her all that I could. My entire life outside of work revolved around caring for her. I made all her meals, which became increasingly restrictive as more complications arose and as she was put on and taken off various medications. I bathed her, dressed her, cleaned up her vomit multiple times a week, changed so many bed sheets because she would sweat profusely or accidentally pee herself. Sometimes because she was in too much pain to get up, sometimes because she couldn't realize she needed to pee, cleaned her poo a few times, helped her wipe herself, and at times I felt like a live-in nurse for a severely disabled person, if that helps paint a picture of it. It was awful and dirty, but I knew that I needed to do all of the things for her, and I wanted to do all I could to alleviate her suffering. But the worst part was the changes in her mental state. I could have done all of this with a smile on my face if she didn't become so cruel and violent during the pregnancy. She had previously never ever been abusive in any way. We were loving. When we had disagreements, we never even raised our voices. We sat and talked. She completely changed while she was pregnant. She yelled at me, swore at me, called me every slur known to man, threw things at me, hit me, told her parents I didn't love her, broke doors, shattered glasses and plates, threatened to kill me. I'd serve her food in bed and she'd throw it on the ground if she didn't like it. After doing this for the 3rd time with oatmeal, I told her I wouldn't serve her oatmeal anymore because I was tired of having to spend hours on my knees digging dried oats out of the carpet. She exploded at that because oatmeal was one of the few things that didn't make her nauseous at the time and threw a coffee mug at my face, which gave me a black eye. This kind of thing became constant and increasingly worse as time went on. After giving birth, she stayed in the hospital for almost 2 weeks at her doctor's request because she had so many complications. I took the baby home after the first week. She eventually came home and had some issues with postpartum depression. But thanks to the close observance of her doctor, it was addressed relatively quickly and she was put on medication. So here we are, 2 years later, and the woman that she was while pregnant doesn't exist anymore. She is back to her old self, still having some lasting but minor physical issues from the pregnancy, but overall is healthy again, mentally and physically. I won't lie, it took me some time to love her again. After I took the baby home, there was a part of me that hoped she wouldn't come back from the hospital. I had no positive feelings for her at that time. I slept in a different room for 4 months afterward. We didn't go to counseling because we just didn't have the time, but eventually, after many talks, I realized that the woman she was while pregnant is gone. She is extremely sorry and regrets everything, and can't explain why she did what she did, but is disgusted with who she was. And around our son's first birthday, we agreed that she would never get pregnant again, due to how dangerous her pregnancy was for her, and how abusive she became toward me. Our relationship is good and loving now, and we both love our son very much. We are happy again. But earlier this week, she mentioned she wouldn't mind having another kid in an offhanded comment. This obviously shocked me. We had agreed to never do it again. I didn't address the comment at the time, but over the next day, I kept thinking about it, and that night I asked her what she meant by that comment. She said she'd been thinking about it, and she decided she wants to try for a daughter and suggests going off her birth control. I probably didn't handle this as well as I could have, but I just stared at her and said, no. She said, what do you mean no? You just don't get to say no. I said no. I'm not doing that again, and we had an agreement. I will not even consider the thought of you being pregnant again. She started crying, saying it's not fair. We have a boy and she wants a girl too. I explained that we can't predict it will be a girl. What happens if it's another boy? And what happens if you die from another pregnancy? She wouldn't continue talking and just cried. I went to sleep in another room. That was Tuesday night. I've been sleeping in the living room, and we basically haven't said more than 50 words to each other since then. I don't know what to do. I don't know where this is coming from. It's honestly insane. She could literally die from another pregnancy, and I will not be her slave and punching bag for 9 months again. Plus, we have a toddler now. If she were to get pregnant, I wouldn't be able to give her the level of care that I did the first time, and if she became abusive again, then she could direct it at our son too. And I wouldn't tolerate a single instance of that. The very moment she tried to become cruel to him, I would take him and she would never see us again. I'm lost and I'm mad. I feel lied to, or betrayed, or like a fool. Like I've been conned or taken advantage of. All the bad feelings I had toward her from the pregnancy are bubbling up. I don't know what I feel or how to talk to her. And edit, I'm not having sex until this is resolved, so you can all stop posting about that. As I said in another comment, I don't have any sexual appetite for her at this time anyway, because of how sad, angry, upset, and frustrated I am. So I have no problem pausing sex. Now in the comments, make it clear to her what actually happened during her pregnancy, and do not be nice. You almost died, but if you want to risk that, that's your decision. What is not your decision is to risk treating me the way you did during the pregnancy. You weren't mean, you weren't a nightmare, you weren't even toxic. You were far, far beyond any of that. You yelled at me for the smallest things. You hit me, injured me, you threatened to kill me. You became the worst imaginable abuser to me while I was taking care of you and doing everything in my power to help you. The fact we are still together and I was able to love you again makes me a saint. Your pregnancy made you the worst piece of crap abuser imaginable. I repeat, you threatened to kill me several times. You will not subject me to that again. Little bit of a writing exercise that, but point is to take the gloves off here. She might be in denial of what happened, or she might even have legitimately kind of forgotten exactly how bad it was. And you need to make it clear exactly how bad it was. Hold nothing back, and do not sugarcoat or put it in any other light than the black void that it was. Good luck. You both need to go to therapy and/or counseling to work through this. In her mind, her actions had no consequences, aside from a few months of sleeping in different rooms. You are still with her, and she clearly doesn't care or remember how abusive she was toward you. And I hate to say this, but you should start wearing condoms or participating in another form of birth control aside from her pills. The fact that she said you don't get to say no is a red flag that she may ignore your decision and stop taking her pill without telling you. And OP replies, I interpreted her "you don't just get to say no" comment to mean you can't say no without talking it out at all, which I understand. But I thought we had already talked it all out. We spent a year talking it all out, and we mutually agreed that she should never get pregnant again. I thought we both already said no. And yeah, the sex thing. I was afraid to mention it because it seemed like a dramatic thought, but I've been worrying over that too. I won't be having any sex until this is resolved. This fight is a huge turn-off anyway, so I don't think it'll be a problem. I can't exactly find her attractive when I have all these sad, angry, and hurt feelings right now. Someone else says, for the love of God, schedule your vasectomy. That sucks. Does she fully remember how awful and abusive she was to you? It sounds like she had a psychiatric break during her pregnancy. You are already clear that this is a deal breaker for you, so I'd suggest that the next time you speak about that, you are clear you will leave if she puts you in that situation. You should not tolerate being abused again, and it's awful that she would even consider getting pregnant again, considering everything that happened the last time. OP replies, I assume she remembers. We have had many discussions about everything that happened during her pregnancy, including how she treated me. I'd say like 80% of all conversations we had in the first year after my son's birth were about it. It has been 8-ish months since we had a real conversation about any of it, but I thought that was because we had resolved everything and felt good about it. I hope she wouldn't have forgotten all of our talks over the last 8 months. And now on to the update. So, wife and I were able to talk the day after that post. Unfortunately, it didn't go very well. Before I left for work, I hugged her, said I'm sorry for immediately saying no, and that I wanted to talk through it after work and hear all of her thoughts about it. She agreed, both said I love yous, and things seemed calm and positive as I left. That night, I asked her why she changed her mind about another baby, and just what she was thinking overall. She basically said she's getting older, her window for another baby is closing, and it made her realize she wanted at least one more, and that she also really wants a girl. I asked what happens if it's not a girl, and she said in that case we would try again. I asked if she remembered the last pregnancy, how dangerous it was, how her kidneys were permanently damaged from it, how she was so sick that I had to basically be her live-in nurse, and that if she got pregnant again, she could have total kidney failure and died. She said she's not worried because she knows God will protect her and will provide what we need. That really threw me off. I don't think I've ever heard her speak about a God like that at any point in our entire 6-year relationship. We are not religious people. I don't think we have ever been in a church together. Our wedding wasn't even in a church. We don't own a Bible. The last time I was in a church was my mum's funeral 9 years ago. After the God comment, I didn't know what to say. I was just shocked, and I laid my head on the back of the couch and looked up at the ceiling. She asked what was wrong. I said that this is a lot, that she is saying the opposite of what we had previously agreed, and I don't think I can change my mind on this because I don't want her to get deathly sick, and that I don't think I can go through the abuse again. I did use the word abuse, which maybe I shouldn't have because it set her off. She started ranting. Abuse? What abuse? You're accusing me of abuse? I reminded her of the coffee cup, throwing food on the floor, the name-calling, the slandering me to my friends and family, and multiple other incidents. But she just kept talking over me. You really think that's who I am? I want another baby, and this is what you think about? I said yes, it is what I think about, because it's what happened last time. Everything just fell apart from there. She was yelling and crying, I couldn't get a word in. Calling me a bunch of names, saying that I don't love her, I can't understand what it's like for her. Why can't I just give her this one thing? It's what God wants for us, it's God's plan, and on and on and on like this. I couldn't calm her down or convince her to go to bed. She was following me around the house and angry crying. One thing that really concerned me is she said something like, loving our son is much easier for me because he looks like me, that she can't see any of herself in him, and it isn't fair, and that's why she wants a daughter. She made it sound like she doesn't love our son, and could only love a daughter that looks like her. Finally, all the noise woke our kid back up, and I told her that I have to take him on a drive to get him back to sleep. I drove around for an hour, put him back to bed, and she was awake but locked in our room, so I slept in the living room again. She left early the next morning, and I later found out she went to her mum's house. She was gone the whole day, so the kid and I had the day together. We eventually went to my older brother and sister-in-law's, both mid-30s, house, and I kind of vented to them. I was very surprised to hear sister-in-law say, yeah, we've been waiting for this, and that it took longer than expected. My brother agreed, and they basically said that they've seen this in her for as long as we've been together, and were concerned but unsurprised with her behavior during the pregnancy, and that the pregnancy let the genie out of the bottle, that who she was at that time is who she really is. They see her slipping more into that behavior every time we hang out, and they are more concerned. I told my wife that Kiddo and I were staying at brother's last night. She never replied, and that's where I still am today. I took a sick day today and probably will tomorrow. I'm lucky my boy is such an easygoing kiddo. 90% of the day, he is giggly and happy and loves to give hugs. For me, he honestly relieves more stress than he creates, and luckily my brother and sister-in-law can't get enough of him. I think I might have to divorce my wife. I've been talking to my brother about it and mentioning marriage therapy, but he said to be careful because therapy could just make my wife hide her ways just long enough to get pregnant again. He says she is very manipulative and is relieved that I'm finally starting to see it. I really didn't think she was that kind of person, but I guess I've been willfully ignorant this whole time. As some of you said in the last post, I think I've been lying to myself. Brother and sister-in-law say she didn't go back to normal after the birth, she just dialed it back a little, and I told myself it was normal. I feel lost. I think I need to get divorced. I don't want to, but I think the only other option is to stay with her, which I also don't want to do. I wish I could stay with my son at my brother's forever and never have to acknowledge the real world ever again. And now in the comments, what's enlightening was you said abuse and she reverted to abuse. You called it. Interesting that all this talk of children and no real concern for her child. Listen to your family. Racists hate to be called racists, abusers hate to be called abusers. It is very similar. OP, one thing to note, abusers very frequently, always, accuse their victim of abuse. Don't buy it. It is distraction and projection intended to save their image to themselves and others. Sounds like your family won't buy it either. Going forward, document, 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 record, record, record. While it may not be admissible in divorce court, it can help with family. Watch for her escalating to the physical. Police are horrid in physical violence calls, but it almost always goes worse for men. You could find yourself accused of physical abuse in an incident that she initiates. Police very often arrest the man, regardless of the circumstances. Lots of stigma there. Wow, I'm so sorry you're having to deal with all of this. It's really concerning that your brother and sister-in-law saw this coming. Makes me wonder what they've been seeing that you haven't. Did they share any examples that may have triggered a realization for you? And as someone else pointed out, counseling with an abuser is bad news. Absolutely, you should seek counseling for yourself to help you work through this awful situation though. And OP replies, our wedding/honeymoon and our finances have a repeated topic of concern from brother and sister-in-law. I didn't get any say in any of the wedding and honeymoon, she wanted full control, and basically just wanted me to pay and show up. I was sad about it, but eventually brushed it off by saying it's the most important day of a woman's life, and the day is about her, so I should let her do what she wants. I know now that a wedding is supposed to be about us, not just her, but at the time I was hearing from everyone on her side that it is her special day, and I didn't want to rock the boat and start our marriage off on a bad foot. We are not super financially stable. I wanted to wait longer for a child because she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but my finances made that very hard. But she didn't want to wait, so we got pregnant, she quit her job during the pregnancy and hasn't been back. Luckily, I've received some pay bumps since then and don't have to work as much overtime now, but our finances are still stretched pretty thin and it's a big stressor for me. It would certainly help if she got a part-time job, but she has never allowed that conversation. I know that I'm a massive pushover. I think of myself as easygoing, but my brother says I'm avoiding conflict by letting her do whatever she wants. He's right. It just sucks that it took this long for me to stop lying to myself. Wow. So you need to dig deep for a very good lawyer because she is going to try to bleed you dry in the divorce. She has no intention of ever working again. OP says, I mean, we've been married for 6 years, and she's only been out of work for about 3 years, and we don't own a home, we rent, and we own 2 shitbox cars, have some shared credit card debt, and a tiny savings, and I have a very sad little pension through my job. I feel like there isn't very much to bleed me of. OP says her PPD was treated relatively quickly, but I have doubts. Either pregnancy triggered a mental change that hasn't been properly addressed, or she is always a little unhinged and hid it well. I don't know how OP didn't run after the first thrown dish. My guess is a little from column A and a little from column B. She wants another baby so bad, but had no problems up until leaving her current toddler and not talking to him for the last few days. No, you see, it'll be different when she has a daughter, until the daughter starts to grow up and become an independent person. Alright, and that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.